if you haven't built a resilient organization, you're screwed. You need to be able to be resilient at all time. And resilient doesn't mean on-prem. Resilient means having the right systems that are all interconnected.
Back in 2004, a frustrated technologist set out to fix something many people in large organizations will recognize: the painfully slow and inefficient process of getting a support ticket resolved. That frustration ultimately led to the creation of ServiceNow. 2 decades later, ServiceNow has become one of the most influential enterprise technology companies in the world. What began as a tool to improve IT support has evolved into a global platform that sits at the epicenter of enterprise workflows across IT, operations, and beyond. My guest today is Cathy Mauzaize, President of Europe, Middle East and Africa at ServiceNow. Having previously held senior leadership roles at the likes of Microsoft, SAP and Dell, we discuss how those experiences have shaped her leadership approach and her perspective on how enterprise IT is likely to evolve in the coming years. We explore the rise of agentic AI, the growing challenge of shadow IT inside organizations, and the governance questions CIOs are beginning to face as powerful AI tools spread across enterprise estates faster than many can control. We also touch upon how content creation may be attributed and regulated in a generative AI world, along with how CIOs and IT leaders can maintain visibility and control across increasingly complex IT estates. This is a really refreshing and fascinating conversation about the cutting edge of what's really going on within enterprise IT right now. You're in for a real treat. This is Cathy Mauzaize. So Cathy, thank you so much for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast. And I'm so happy to be talking to you. Obviously, this has been a long time in the making. And I know you're a very busy person, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Well, great to be here, Gareth, and lovely to spend time with you and have this conversation. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's start off with a big bang. What does good leadership mean to you, Cathy?
Well, to me personally, what I would look at, great leadership and what I'm trying to do myself is a mix of empathy and learning mindset, right? Learning everything, learning from various parts of the organization. Empathy is around customer, about people, around ecosystem, around what's happening in the world, just understanding the big picture and just, making sure that when you live with true empathy and really, truly caring about what you do and the impact on people, combined with a huge willingness to learn. And I guess today, in today's world, if you don't learn, if you're not open to change and to grow yourself and to absorb new things and to learn from every level in the organization, you're done, right? So that's truly what great leadership means to me. And of course, having all the right posture of leadership and ethics and hardworking and respecting others and humility, all those things, right? So that's what I would describe as great leadership, and that's what I'm trying to do myself on a daily basis. Not saying it's easy every day, but that's, for me, is really the characteristics of great leadership.
Great answer. I think what stood out for me there was empathy. I think empathy is so important as an ingredient in good leadership, isn't it? And basically getting in the trenches with your subordinates, your peers, and really understanding the purpose of their role and supporting them to achieve their goals, I suppose. That's a great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that, Cathy. So could you please give us a little bit of an introduction into maybe starting with what initially drew you into the sort of technology industry and how you ended up at ServiceNow?
So look, I've been in pretty much technology all my career in various types of companies and various roles. Actually, interesting to know that I started in finance. Can you believe that? Before I moved to sales. A lot of people actually do that. But, technology only matters when it translates into impact for people. So that's not about just technology for the sake of technology. I've always been super interested in what technology can bring, the impact on life, on organization, on research. So it's not technology for the sake of technology. It's the pace of the change and it also the impact. And, being French and French speaker and working across EMEA, gives a particular also lens. The region is not one. It's like 27 countries, multiple language, multiple culture, multiple readiness, multiple regulatory environment. So that also brings, coming back to what I said, is great leadership, these diverse lengths, right? So, I've always been very interested into diversity, all types of diversity. So that very natural evolution take for the impact it has on people, but also multiple country and ability to just have an impact, various impact across all those countries.
Cool.
So, that has been a little bit my career. So, various type of organizations started very basically in finance, I told you, then HP, then Dell, then EMC with the acquisition, then moved to application with SAP, then to cloud at Microsoft. And then very naturally, then after Microsoft, I was really interested in, getting into a fast-growing engine in tech, and ServiceNow is a fast-growing engine. And I saw the power of the platform, and I understood the potential it would have on how things could be done, right? So that's why I've joined ServiceNow like 5 years ago. And the pace is not slowing down. The pace
speeding up.
It is even worse than 5 years ago, I would say, right? So we had the COVID, who has a big peak in terms of using and embracing technology because of the unique nature of what COVID has done to society, companies, civil ecosystem, everything. But now with AI, it's like boom, it's like twice, 10 times faster. It's incredible. The pace of change is just incredible. And, we are seeing billions of AI interaction today, but like 3 years ago, it was still very much of a concept, agentic. If you see the acceleration path, it's pretty phenomenal. So what drew me to this industry and what keeps me here is exactly the complexity of the landscape across EMEA, the complexity of the maturity, the pace that is imposed by technology itself. And it demands continuous learning and making sure that you create a positive impact. I'm a big believer in tech for good, in tech for positive impact on people. And so that's the lengths I'm using in my daily interaction, but also that's why I'm so excited with the future ahead of us.
Well, we'll come on to sort of AI and stuff shortly, but just in terms of your background, you've obviously had leadership roles in some of the world's top tech companies. You mentioned Dell and a couple of others there. Well, which one, SAP and being another one, and Microsoft, of course, which one of those companies had the most profound effect in terms of impacting how you lead and operate at ServiceNow, do you think?
Tricky question.
It's like picking your favorite baby or something, isn't it?
You can't say that. Come on, Gareth. You're going to drive me into this. Look, all of those, I will say, it's, a career is made of steps. It's made of people you meet. It's made of people who develop you. It's made of opportunities. It's made of a fallback. It's made of a lot of things. So I would not be here today in this role if I wouldn't have all this experience, one after the other one. Some were tougher than others, but that led me to the next chapter, right? So it's difficult to tell you, hey, what is the best one and what is the worst one? All of them combined made who I am today and made my career evolution for good and bad reasons, but they all are profoundly important in my trajectory. What I can say is the reason why I decided to move from one to the other one, right? So for instance, when I was at Dell, merging with EMC, I saw the world moving to cloud. I saw the world moving to application and a different layer. So I thought the time for me was to embrace the other side of the technology, not the infra, but the application and the cloud space. That's why I chosen SAP. SAP has a lot of history and of complexity. I learned what is a deep, complex company transformation at SAP, right? Because it is itself a huge and an old mother, an old company that needs to change and embrace new ways of doing on-prem to cloud. Then going to Microsoft, Satya was just on board since 2-3 years. From Balmer time, completely changing the culture of the company from collaboration, embracing the cloud, and again, changing completely the models and the culture. Like for me, that has been a profound learning. And looking at Satya, the way he changed the company, and then getting into a rocket ship like ServiceNow, fast growth, making the right decision, taking the right bets, looking at technology evolving very quickly. So all of those are really, really, really important in my career. There's no one that I would say is more important than the other one. And of course, now ServiceNow, I'm so proud of being here and being able to have this impact across EMEA and having the ability to mold the strategy, to mold, our decision to serve the business and to serve my industry, because I'm European. I want to make sure, European customers shine. I want to make sure they are equipped with the latest and the brightest.
I got to ask you, though, about your time at Microsoft, because you were there at a very, very pivotal time for the history of the organization. It was obviously COVID was happening like a year after you started or 2 years after you started. Plus, there was a big leadership change when you were there. Obviously, Satya Nadella, who you referred to earlier, came on board. Can you tell us a little bit about Microsoft at that time? And what did Satya change?
What Satya did. So Satya has a very unique style, leadership style. A lot of humility, long-term thinking. He's a visionary. He is a visionary, so he's always thinking long-term. He has a huge curiosity, and his empathy and curiosity is also coming from his personal journey, right? So his son, has been handicapped. He lost his son. So that is forging him as a human being before even being a great leader, right? So, but he's always very calm, very long-term thinking. So what Satya did when I was over there is literally change the culture of the company. Microsoft as a company that had been created under Ballmer, which still was a very strong execution machine. So there's goodness in all the models again. But the Microsoft from Ballmer's were the Microsoft of execution and internal competition. The Microsoft of Satya is a technology company, is a true tech company.
Yeah.
And it's, I think he had some quote about the fact that, we cannot live on the past when in technology, you can only focus on the future. And I think he made that very, very true towards this change of strategy. And it was around collaboration between the execs, right? So making sure that the culture is actually around coming together and moving from we know it all to we learn it all, right? So, it's very different mindset. When you put execs in competition or people and teams in competition, they need to show that they know everything. And actually, that's killing innovation. That's killing collaboration. That's killing, doing the right thing for the customer. That's just putting internal competition, and the competition has to be with the external world in service of customer. And he did this change brilliantly. Plus, from a technology perspective, he was very visionary, and he still is. So I think that has been a great learning for me, right? Great learning, looking at, the way the culture was changed, the way the cascade, the way the alignment between all the leaders to serve one big goal, the empowerment, that has been really critical for me in terms of my learning.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's really insightful. No, thank you for that. So early 2021 then, an opportunity comes around because you were obviously looking after the French region for Microsoft as a commercial general manager, a much bigger territory for a fast up and coming CRM company, I think you would be regarded as at the time, ServiceNow. Tell us, how did that come about? And why did you go there? Why did you take the jump into that role?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it's a question of combination of the right moment, the right people, and the right strategy. It's there's a moment in life and you need to just be bold, right? I do believe in being bold. So look, someone called Paul Smith called me at the time, right? We all know who is Paul, now a chief revenue officer at Anthropic, one of the most, fascinating objects on the market at the moment. Paul had been joining ServiceNow since a couple of months and was looking for somebody to run France. To be fair, when he called me, I just didn't even pick up the phone. I was running a very large business at Microsoft. Great company, I was enjoying, we are growing, large deal, very strategic engagements at board level. Microsoft brand is strong enough to open a lot of doors. But he persisted because he's a sales guy, so he didn't drop the ball. And we started to have conversation about why he joined ServiceNow and what the potential he saw. And I started to understand the capability of the platform, the strengths of the platform, what actually we could be doing on the platform that was not even today being thought about, right? The real potential that this potential will have on the market. And at the time being, it was very much IT centric. And I remember very well, I'm not super interested in just IT and ticketing. That's not my stuff. I'm more interested in business outcome. How can we change the way things are done? How can we be strategic for customer? And that was just in front of us. And the promise was, hey, join us now. It's small, but it's going to be big. It's going to be a big company. And you're going to have the ability to just mold it the way you want. And you're going to be like at the beginning before the business is even taking off, right? So that has been a component of all the things. Again, multiple country. I joined to run the South, which was France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Israel, and all the Middle East. And I must say that got me super excited, right? With the ability to just build it.
It's a massive region, isn't it? It's a big area.
It was very, very sexy, right? So, I that's the reason why I made the change. It was not an easy one because Microsoft is a great company, but phenomenal company and still is, from technology, from leadership, from culture, from everything. That was a bit of an unknown, but, Gareth, maybe you have a glimpse of who I am. I also follow instinct. And my instinct told me, this is going to be a great story. Jump on a boat. There's a little bit of risk, very limited, because I still have a great brand on the market. And so just jump on the boat. And I took the challenge to jump on the boat.
Yeah.
And here I am after 5 years, now running all EMEA, which is great. But it's been a journey and I enjoy every minute of the journey.
Sure. Can I ask you, in terms of like the difference between Europe and the rest of EMEA, if you like, in terms of the other parts, the other regions, what's been the biggest shift or the biggest sort of thing you've been surprised by? You know what I mean? From an enterprise IT standpoint. Because I guess the scale
compared to the rest of the world, you mean?
Well, compared to the rest of your region, so Middle East and Africa. What challenges? You've gone from a European market to European part, and you've got the Middle East and Africa included now. From an enterprise technology standpoint, where I'm going with this, Cathy, is I suppose there's a lot of digital transformation still very much underway in those regions. They're developing countries in many respects. There's a lot of growth potential. Am I right? Is that so? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah. So the Middle East is pretty fascinating to look at how the Middle East versus, I would say there's Western Europe and the Middle East, right? And you look at Western Europe, it's also that one. You have Germany, UK, and France, which are the biggest engine. And then you have like other countries, which are much smaller, some very innovative, some a bit lagging behind. That's the beauty and the difficulty of managing EMEA, by the way, right? So it's all very diverse, literally from a tech maturity perspective, and we're going to come to that when it comes to AI a little bit later. But if you compare Western Europe, very mature business, a lot of legacy, pressure from the top line, pressure from the bottom line, pressure from the investor, pressure from the employee. They have to transform, but they have a lot of legacy, and the legacy is slowing them down. And then you go to Middle East. And within Middle East, you need to look at Saudi Arabia. You need to look at Qatar. You need to look at Kuwait. And to some extent to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. But I would say, the three first are moving even faster because they don't have legacy. The country is being built up and they want to take a leadership position from a tech perspective. They want to be on the most innovative. They want to be AI driven first. They want to lead. So it's a very different mindset because they don't have all the legacy. They are just building up and accelerating their countries. When you look at Saudi Arabia and the 2030 Kingdom Vision, it's just building a country, building completely an economy, building tourism, building joint venture with some of the Western Europe or American companies. So it's just building up. So of course it's easier. The build up is easier than the transform. Transform is hard. Build up easy, goes faster. But for us at ServiceNow, it's been a huge growth engine. Huge growth engine on the most modern technology. They go straight to white glove. Western Europe is more challenged in changing and adopting.
I understand,
It's pretty fascinating when you look at that, coming back to AI. We run AI maturity index across our region, ServiceNow. And it's pretty phenomenal that despite the surge in AI and the intention, which is real, and the momentum, the AI maturity index has dropped in Western Europe, has dropped.
Really?
Yes, from 44 to 34 out of 100. And
Wow.
the reason is, there's a lot of organizations that are launching AI use case, but only 6%. So roughly half of the organizations are launching AI use cases, but only 6% have reached augmentation at scale. And so there's a lot of, we want to go there. We need to go there. We need, and that has been confirmed by IDC, that there's going to be like more than 144 billion by 2028 on project AI project spending. But we struggle to go from intention to realizing value at scale. And that's why the AI maturity index has dropped. And that's why it's so important that to discuss the governance around AI and why they are struggling. And what can we do to help them as a consequence.
Wow. Okay. That's a good clip there. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I did not know that. But it's an interesting point as well, what you said about these countries who they're not sort of held back by legacy tech and and they didn't go through the initial phase of digital transformation. They've started from the sort of advantageous position of being digital first from day one. You know what I mean? So, because I know like a lot of enterprise organizations who've been around for a long time, they still use legacy systems that are built on technologies like IBM mainframe and COBOL and things like that. And CTO after CTO is terrified to touch it because if it goes wrong, it'll bring the company down. But there's so much reliance on this tech that was built by an engineer in the 70s or something. It must be the same in France.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and especially in regulated industries. Regulated industries, mainframe in the
banking,
banking, insurance, and they know it's horrible. They know it's outdated. They all know that they're just terrified. To your point,
absolutely.
Because if the system is dropping down, then
that's the end of their career, isn't it?
Who's going to be fired?
Then all the shareholders will be furious and they'll be fired. They'll never recover from it. So it's a real bad situation. But anyway, that's really insightful, Cathy. So look, I've got to ask you then, just to move this along, from your vantage point then of working with organizations across EMEA, what are the biggest technology priorities for enterprises right now? I think I know what you're going to say with one or two of them. But what's being spoken about in boardrooms at the moment from a technology standpoint, of course?
AI is everywhere, as you can expect. But I would say it's AI. What is moving at the boardroom is, and the CEO are pushing CIOs. Well, that's also something that we see popping up and different from the past. CEOs are pushing CIOs to have a AI and platform strategy. I see, again, popping up very strongly governance, risk, and security, especially in Europe, especially in regulated industry, but especially in Europe. And then, of course, you are in a global economy. You need to be more productive. You need to be more innovative. You need to be faster to market. You need to be able to react much faster to everything. Look at what's happening right now in the Middle East. If you haven't built a resilient organization, you're screwed. You need to be able to be resilient at all time. And resilient doesn't mean on-prem. Resilient means having the right systems that are all interconnected so that you can drive and make decision and correction super quickly to shift your business. So what we hear at the boardroom at the moment is the urgency for change, but with the right governance and risk and security. And of course, a lot of pressure on OPEX, a lot of pressure on margin, making sure we are leaner, we go faster, and we are more agile in a world that is like incredibly complex today, incredibly competitive today, and incredibly global as well, right? So I don't see that's going to be anytime soon slowing down. I think that's going to be just accelerating. But what is very interesting is that, the CIOs that used to be like, kind of very hidden people somewhere are now getting to the board, a lot more visibility, and we see them being the gatekeeper of the AI execution and governance. So we've always, ServiceNow, been very, very connected to CIOs, as you know, from the past, and that has been our history. So we have a great segue into helping them, build this from boardroom into execution. So the challenge is to build the right system fast enough with the right innovation, but they need to be resilient enough to manage the risk and the short term. So that's a challenge that is happening everywhere at the moment. How do you combine fast innovation and the absolutely top-down imperative to move fast with building a governance and platform-level strategy that will make you resilient and safe for the future.
Yeah.
That's what we help them do as much as we can with our technology because we are built for that moment. But for sure, there's a lot of pressure on our customer at the moment.
This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology license management and data remediation and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy. Go to bedigitaluk.com to find out more and get in touch. Yeah, absolutely. I think the hype around AI has surpassed the technology almost. And it's, we need to come back around to what's realistic. At the end of the day, as you know, Cathy, it's all about the quality of your data, isn't it? I mean, if you don't have your data in place in the right way, then you're not going to get much value from AI. And also, if you haven't got governance in place, then you're gonna get in trouble with AI, power of AI technology. But,
very quickly, look at that. The number of agents that's going to be deployed in industry. I was meeting with a customer in the tobacco industry. I cannot name any name, but there's not a lot of those across Europe. They already deploy more than 2,000 agents.
Wow.
Chaos. How do you control? How do you orchestrate? How do you make sure you're compliant? How do you make sure you can report to the regulator around, what these agents are doing? Right. So right now, the big topic is governance, understanding how you understand the decision chain and the interaction between agents to solve a problem. And if you consider AI is outside of your system and not embedded into the workflow, you're totally wrong. So AI is only as good as the platform is built on, only as good as the data you're using, and only as good as the workflow it is embedded into. You need the three components to come together, and you need to govern all of that.
Yeah, sure.
I think I described what we do, right? That's precisely what we do, those four things together.
It's the perfect storm for you guys, isn't it, really?
It is.
It's the perfect storm for what you've been building up to since 2004.
We've been built for that moment, actually.
For this moment. This is the moment.
Yeah. This is our moment. Yeah. So that's why I'm so excited to be here right now in this position at ServiceNow, because I do believe there's a very strong momentum for us.
My understanding is that ServiceNow was created by someone who was frustrated that, service tickets weren't being cleared fast enough.
For a customer. Literally, if you look at this story, it's pretty fascinating. Actually, that was not IT at all. That was literally a customer service. There was a lady that needed to get into 10 systems to get a customer order form ready. And that's what our founder figure out that, using one button, you could automatize the process and the workflow. That's how we were built, on a very simple idea that actually you can digitalize and automatize process. And now, of course, next wave is not automatize, is agentic embedded workflow, right? So it's that's to run autonomous enterprise. That's the vision of the future.
This is a bit of a sticky subject, I think, at the moment, because people are just really not sure what's going to happen as this technology, as AI generally gets better.
Yeah.
But are you seeing your customers hiring less? It's not necessarily getting rid of people as in redundancies, but are they hiring less as a result of agents doing more and more around service management and, service desk stuff?
We don't see them hiring less. We see them hiring differently.
Okay, good answer.
Different skills. And you need to be able to have people who can work fluently with AI, right? So you could be thinking that the young generation will be AI native, but even them need to learn how to do a prompt. You still need human brain to figure out if the prompt and AI is doing something stupid or not, right? So it's a different skill that you will need. By the way, all tech companies, including us, have a huge responsibility in contributing to the skill set. I guess for some functions, there will be impact. That's for sure, right? By the way, I've just before this conversation, Gareth, I was, saw a new news that Anthropic has disclosed the list of jobs that will be, according to them, the most impacted by AI.
Oh, really?
And if you look like, of course, in all IT, all engineering, mathematics,
things that have manual administrative tasks, I suppose. Yeah.
That. But if you look at the other side, according to them, that will impact the highly skilled people much more than the people that do not have that many required capabilities.
It's funny that, isn't it?
You still will need people to do manual things, right? For instance, in agriculture, you can enhance and augment the yield on the yarn, but you cannot replace farmers. You need people to do the job.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
plumbers and things,
I think right now everybody is pretty much navigating. I do think there's going to be impact on some sort of jobs. I do see most of the company trying to figure out how to be more productive, including us, by the way.
Yeah.
We need to drink our own champagne. So we need to be using our own technology. We need to be smarter. We need to be AI native. We are not an AI native company.
Yeah.
And we are competing with AI native companies. So we need to become AI native, which means using the technology to get us, to augment us. Will that translate into a reduction? I don't think so. I really think it's going to be translating into a shift in profiles. I personally don't believe that we're going to be having a company that will be run entirely on AI agents. That's impossible.
Yeah.
That's my wish. That is impossible.
Yeah, I can't see how that could happen unless it was a very specific business. I mean...
Yeah, or you can fully automatize and maybe robotics can be, enhanced. So there's a bucket of things. I do believe it's going to be a lot of multimodal, and combining human agents interaction much
100%.
more. That's why you need human that needs how to speak to agents, needs to know how to control the wrong decision and be able to judge. Judgment will be critical even more, because if you just rely on ChatGPT or any cloud or any model, you lose your ability to judge. So judgment will be critical, and skills, how to use AI properly, will be critical. That's my view, right? But I may be wrong. And I hope I'm right. If not, that's very scary.
No, I think you will be right for sure. I don't think there's much doubt about that. One of the most interesting conundrums this has created is around content creation. So it's like the child who gets AI to write the essay that the teacher has wrote them and hands it in, okay? Now, if that essay that the teacher marks is clearly, or they know for some reason that it's written by AI, but nonetheless, it's right, it feels like the person's words, but, clearly they've used AI. Does that detract away from the outcome of a good essay? Or should we ban AI for learning activities? It's a bit like the calculator with maths equations, isn't it? So the question is, in terms of creating content, if you used AI, does it detract away from the outcome of the content created? And do you view it like that, or do you think that we need to embrace it?
Yeah, for me, we need to embrace it. It's we had the digital revolution, we had the mobile revolution, we had the cloud revolution, and remember at all these big, people say, no, it's going to be horrible. It's going to change. We need to stick to the past.
Yeah.
We can't. We need to stick to the future. We need to embrace the future, and we need to manage to learn how to cope with the future, and to use the future. I had this very interesting conversation with my daughter, actually, 20 years old. She's in La Sorbonne University, and she's using ChatGPT to augment herself. So the deal is, hey, I still need to learn, because, if I'm doing studies, if I'm a student, I still need my brain to learn about the content.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use AI to be faster in some of the things I have to do, or getting straight to the point. It doesn't mean that a brain will be less trained. It means that she's going to be smarter and more efficient on some delivery.
Absolutely.
And I think
efficient is the word.
That's super smart.
Yeah.
Super smart to do so. And, we had this debate. It's pretty fascinating to see the young generation. Some, I guess, are a bit extreme because they're using AI to learn instead of them, and they're going to become stupid. And that's the risk, that we lose our brain and ability. But Gareth, AI is already stronger than human. It's already, you look at all the, chessboard, AI is beating any of our players globally, right? So that's the unique nature of this, right? So we cannot fight this technology. We need to embrace it and control it and use it the right way. I think that's That's for me the key. How do you use it for good? How do you use it to augment you, to augment this company? If tomorrow we have a fix for cancer treatment using AI, that's great. If we have a fix using AI technology for global warming, wonderful. I mean, if we have a fix using technology for education in a deprived environment, great. If we are using AI to kill even more each other, no, right? So, but that's where, we human, my view, personal view, that we cannot stop this. And we just need to...
There's no point of fighting against it.
Coexist. Yeah. Use it to augment you, while, again, using your brain to be very conscious.
Yeah.
It's just, self-awareness. I'm a firm believer that technology is for good, and it has to be for good.
Yeah, that is the only thing that concerns me a bit, though, is the fact that people like you and I clearly are very bought into this technology and use it and benefit from it. But there's a lot of people who don't and just cannot get on with AI and large language models. And I just think it's going to create this enormous gulf, this inequality in progression.
I agree. I agree.
And so we have to get more people using this technology in order to elevate us collectively, I think. Do you agree?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And that's why, all tech companies have a role to play. That's why we, for instance, launched ServiceNow University to skill on AI up to 3 million workers by 2027. It's a drop. It's a drop in the ocean. But if everyone is embracing, we can have an impact globally. Now, I think all the education system has to be rethought and teachers have to be retrained. It's a huge change. And AI will be multimodal and that will be the new normal. That's going to be the reality. And so that's going to be impacting enterprises for sure. And that has been confirmed by IDC and by all the research environment that 80% of enterprise AI system will be multiple input types by 2028. But that's the reality. But even in society, it's going to be a huge transformation. And coming back to a conversation earlier, Western Europe is moving quite slowly because we are afraid and because it is an American company, most of the time American technology, and we are unique. We need also to control. So I guess, there's also an opportunity for Europe to lead in some way, right? And to have a voiceover at global level, not to be squeezed between America and China. We have a great company, we have great education, we have great people. We just need to make sure that we have the mix of talents and also that we are all AI-augmented citizens. I do believe there's going to be a wave of change in a couple of years. It has to be for good again. And that's something you and I can debate, we can contribute, but we need our politicians, we need our regulatory system, we need everyone to embrace it. It's there. It's there, so there's no way that we can avoid it. We just need to embrace it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I asked the question, is because there is still stigma around using AI. It's still going to kind of people go, oh, you're using AI. That means you're cheating. And it's like, no, you're not cheating. That's ridiculous. You're looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you agree with me on that. So can we jump back on to ServiceNow then? I wanted to ask you about the knock-on effect, the multimodal AI and the platform strategy and the knock-on effect this has on your commercial pricing and your engagement, your commercial engagement model with your customers.
Yeah.
So, I know obviously in the past, it's been evolving probably for years.
Yeah.
Do you bill your customers more on a telemetry model, a consumption model now? Is that, and what do you see the next couple of years looking like on that side of things?
Great question, Gareth. We have to shift to consumption. It's going to be tokens, agentic tokens, how many you consume for what use case. So we are just changing our models. It's going to take a bit of time, but that's the direction of the industry. A direction is agentic token consumption, right? And again, this is going to change a lot in the next 2 to 3 years, right? So all of us are trying to figure out what is the right pricing model. We were not a consumption-first pricing and licensing. We have to go there. Because again, our customers are willing to consume. So we are navigating this transition. All our products are going to be AI embedded, all of those, right? So it's going to be not going to be agentic, not AI, agentic embedded. So it's not about, are we agentifying or not? We are agentifying. As you know, we've had quite MoveWorks, which is the employee front end, which also will have to be consumed via agent and telemetry. So we are shifting to consumption. We're going to have those two models over time. Time for us to just, settle into the new world because we still have products that are not agentified. But as the next release, which is Australia, we're going to have everyone using Australia agentic first. And so while we transition all our customers, we're going to get there over time. So it's going to take a bit of time, not that much yet, because, that's the direction of travel. That's the industry. The industry is like that, right? So we just need to embrace it. But for us, we need to move from one model to the other one. But it's like, moving from on-prem to cloud. It's moving from SaaS
stages
to agentic. Yeah. It's just the next wave of evolution. I'm quite relaxed.
How long do you think it will take you to complete that transition then? Do you think globally? I know it's probably a difficult question to answer, isn't it? But do you have any idea?
Well, I think it's going to be very fast. I'm telling you, because the technology is going so fast.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we're going to be driven by our customer and they will push us. I think, 3-4 years, maybe less than that. We have to do maybe 2 years, right? Again, next release, Australia, all products agentified. We're going to sell only that agentified workflow, right? So, it's time for us to move to upgrade people and to change all the engagement models. And it's depending on customer. It's how they want also to engage with us. It's what customer want, right? So we are here to serve our customer, to drive them, of course. But, I guess the customer will be the voiceover to anything we do.
Yeah, of course. I have to say, I was going to say, and just in terms of the impact of AI on SaaS, generally speaking, and it's doesn't really impact you guys because it's a big enterprise product. But I'm thinking in terms of smaller sort of SaaS companies who've got product sets and with little tools and bolt-ons and plugins and things like that. I mean, I was using Claude Code last week, and I created a piece of software, like a dashboard for analyzing your software spend with a couple of major vendors. Yeah. And I used ChatGPT to create the prompt. It was quite a sophisticated prompt, put it into Claude Code. And the outcome was just like, wow.
Amazing.
I mean, in 5 minutes, I'd created this incredible software product. And I'm not even technical. And I just think, a proper software engineer would be able to create very complex software very quickly now. This is going to hammer the SaaS world, surely, over the next couple of years. Have you got any thoughts on this? And what can SaaS companies do to fight back against this wave of bespoke software creation on demand by companies and individuals?
Well, I think some will die, to be fair, and some will win. Again, for me, I see that as another disruption from, digital to mobile to cloud, all these waves. I think I don't have the answer to all of these, right? But I think the SaaS bashing is a bit exaggerated because you need to, again, put yourself into an enterprise world, right? And that's why we believe we're extremely well positioned. There's no way you're not going to have an ERP to run a company. No way. That's not going to happen. So you're going to have SAP or Oracle. There's no way you're not going to have a CRM to engage with your customer. There's going to be ServiceNow or others. I'm not going to say any names. Yeah. There's no way you're not going to have a financial system to report to a system of record, right? That will not happen, right? Of course, there will be agentic embedded. There will be more agile, leaner, faster. And again, coming back to what I'm saying, what makes a difference between that and the world of the future is how you govern and how you embed AI into the workflow. It's because the work is the workflow, is how you move things from one point to the other one, how you connect systems so that they are making together the right outcome for an employee, for a customer, for a finance person, for whomever. So I don't believe SaaS is over. I do believe, though, small SaaS, niche SaaS, like insurance, for instance, or legal, will be heavily disrupted.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, there's going to be disruption in all the SaaS company, all of us. And we are both SaaS and an orchestration layer. That's why we don't see us really as a SaaS. There will be point solution that will be impacted. Small company, the big one, will have to change their model to be more agile, more innovative, leaner. But they will survive because the company will still need them. And there's legacy. Coming back to your initial conversation of who will tomorrow disrupt a mainframe to use cloud? Who would do that? I would love to see their name. I would love to have a conversation with them. Yeah. Maybe in 3-4 years' time. But Gareth, think about that. All of this will be commoditized over time. What is hyped today, Anthropic, Claude, and ChatGPT will be, again, commoditized. Their own business model will have to be revisited. They are not making money, right? So they are building on a lot of infrastructure. So all of this will change a lot. There's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot of, people betting. I don't believe SaaS is that at all. SaaS will have to change. Small SaaS, niche point solution may be heavily impacted. But, what is sure is our industry will be changing very fast again, as we did 5 years ago with COVID, as we did when we moved to on-premise to cloud. Remember that at the time being, it was a big thing, right? And so the difference is the pace. It just goes much faster.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that ServiceNow have always been good at is allowing people to build applications within the platform so they don't have to rely on IT to build them something. So that you've always been big on the no-code stuff, haven't you? And I think that's probably the future is good SaaS providers will adapt by giving their users the tools they need to create the applications they want within their environment. I think that's the key, isn't it?
But then you need to govern all of this. It's not a chaos. And then you're creating shadow IT, shadow AI. Yeah. And it's going to be ungovernable. That's why we do believe governance is everything and AI embedded into the workflow.
Can we quickly chat about that then before we finish? I'm just really interested in what advice you're giving to your customers, etc., on software asset management, essentially, and governance. What kind of advice are you guys giving to CIOs at the moment?
First, they need to be convinced they need to have control. Right? And they need to be thinking a bit differently than in the past, right? So control tower, again, it's the world of tomorrow is a world where you add data, LLMs, workflow, and you need governance above, right? That's a bit different than the traditional system when you need an ERP, you need a CRM, you need an HCM system, which we are much more siloed. Now, the world of today is a world of transversity. It's across. It needs to be across. And so that's why we are helping our customer to figure out, we've acquired Veza and Armis and MoveWork recently. All of this is really giving us first the employee front door experience with MoveWorks, but also with Veza and Armis, the ability to control agentic access. So it's access management, they're agentic. Right, so you can scan all your assets, and you are via AI Control Tower, just scanning all your assets, and then on top of via Veza controlling what agent access to what, right? And that's going to be critical, right? Because again, asset identification is pretty basic. Agent identification and access management is a bit more tricky. Right, and that's where the risk, by the way, sits. And then with Armis, you can connect with the physical and digital world, OT/IT, right? So that's what we call AI Control Tower. By the way, that does resonate extremely well with our customer because right now it's a nightmare for them.
Yeah,
Board wants governance, wants regulation, wants clarity, but also wants transformation, wants speed, wants OpEx effectiveness. That's really hard. So what we are advising them is put the framework in place together, put the right connector to your data set, the one that do matter for you to do this workflow. Be pragmatic. Don't boil the ocean. Just be very pragmatic. Identify what LLMs you really want to use. Don't do shadow AI. LLMs are critical. Select a set of LLMs that you need to make your agents intelligent or to augment yourself, and then put it back into this framework that we can provide and help them build.
That's fantastic, yeah.
It does resonate very well because that's the moment for them to just put this in place and imagine if tomorrow an agent is making a bad decision in a bank transaction and just instead of, I don't know, that will not happen, but instead of, creating a credit for €100, it's creating a credit for 1 million. Because there's a mistake in the system, you can have a huge impact on the bank credibility, a huge impact on the citizen that is impacted, the customer that is impacted, governance, DORA regulation, all of this is exploding. You cannot let that happen. So you need to make sure that you track access, you track decision-making, you track workflow, and you report. More important than ever. In the physical, digital world, consistency all the time, all assets. All the regulated industry are coming to us with this question.
Yeah.
All of those. But then it's going to be scaling across regulated industry because with agent deployment, it's going to be any industry.
Fantastic answer, Cathy. We are actually a software asset management company, so I've got so many questions, but we ain't got time. So let's finish up on these ones then, okay? So that was a brilliant answer, by the way, and thank you so much for sharing that. That's really useful for our listeners, I'm sure. So let's jump into this one then, okay? So you're obviously, a female tech leader and, I'm sure an inspiration to many people. So what I'm keen to understand is if you could go back and give that 21-year-old person advice, it wasn't that long ago, Cathy, I'm sure, if you could give him advice in terms of, knowing what you know now, what would you say to that person who started your career?
Trust yourself. Be bold. Take risk.
Confidence, yes?
Follow your heart. Follow your guts. Because I've been following my guts. A lot of time, anytime I didn't follow my guts, I made a mistake. But of course, good mistake that drove me to the next level. So that's what I would say to me, and also I would tell me, don't start in finance. You don't need go straight into business because you are meant for that, right? So again, I'm not blaming myself for anything I did because all the steps brought me to where I am today. Yeah. But it's more about the doubts and sometimes the uncertainty and, managing a big family. I have 4 kids. So sometimes it's been like,
That's a lot of work. I got 2.
Yeah. I have 2 business. I have the home business and the real, the real business is home, by the way. That's the real business.
Yeah, for sure.
And the one I'm paid for, right? So I would say like, just be more relaxed about myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself as a female. I always wanted to deliver more. I always wanted to be better. I always had to prove that I deserved. It's always this male versus female, all those bias. Female need to be 100% ready before they think they can take the next steps. Men, 50% are okay to try. And when I was young, I've always needed to be 200% ready before I even consider getting the next steps. Be more relaxed, right? Just more relaxed. I wanted to control everything. Yeah. And in life, you cannot control everything. No. And what's happening today, this revolution, is the best demonstration that you just need to embrace, you cannot control.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant advice. I love that. So for our listeners then, so let's finish on this one. We always ask our guests to recommend a piece of content. It's normally a book, but if you're not a reader, it can be something else. Something that's inspired you recently, Cathy.
Yeah, well, not recently. Something that everyone needs to be reading is a book from Carol Dweck about the growth mindset. That's the playbook we had to read at Microsoft. Carol Dweck.
Oh, can you spell the surname?
Dweck. Yeah, Carol Dweck. And this is
growth mindset. Got it.
This is how you embrace growth mindset, a learning mindset, and lead with empathy. I think that's really, 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 really one of the books that really forged my thought process. Satya has been a big fan of this and used it as his personal style. I read the book. I highly recommend it to everyone because it's really what I believe is great leadership. And that's really coming back to empathy, coming back of growing mindset and embracing. And in this moment, growing mindset is critical.
Yes, absolutely. And what a great place to finish. So where can people sort of connect with you, Cathy, and keep an eye on what you guys are doing?
LinkedIn is the best channel for me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm not very good at Twitter. Sorry about that. And I don't want to be good at Twitter. I'm good at LinkedIn. Posting the news on LinkedIn, what's happening. It's a mix of, what I see, a conversation I have with my team and my customer across Europe, Middle East and Africa, and also the latest and the greatest on ServiceNow. So that's a good combo and a good mix.
Fantastic. Well, Cathy, I've really enjoyed this conversation, genuinely.
And so did
like I said to you earlier, I could go on all day. But thank you so much for doing this. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you, Gareth.
This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology, license management, and data remediation, and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy and beyond. Go to Be Digital UK to find out more and get in touch.